Hey everyone, Temporal here, and for this session we are reviewing a gold McCree. If you guys are enjoying the content, please do like and subscribe as that really does help me out. Or if you're looking to get coaching yourself, you can join the Discord in the description below, see what rates look like, see what sort of promos we have going on, all sorts of cool stuff like that. So with that, let's see what we've got.
Round one. Capture the objective.
So we're partnered with the Junkrat. We have a Reinzara tank line. Okay. I do generally want you going more the way of your... Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I don't love this. I think it was more predictable. So you're sort of in this situation because you were sort of going in front of your tank line in the first place, which, you know, I can live with if you're on a different angle, etc. But taking an angle is going to take long. With McCree, you're not really fast. All you have for mobility is roll. And honestly, we're generally more interested in the roll's value for reload than for mobility. The mobility is a very close second, but it's... I am going to call it a close second. So here we see where our tanks are going, and that's sort of where we want to go. I don't mind us taking off angles when we have time to take off angles, but I don't want us taking off angles if it's going to take away from contributing to the fight. We're not Soldier, we're not Tracer, we don't have the mobility to do that. We're much more about uptime and just going damage, damage, damage. Even if it's not, even if we can't get at the target we'd like, we want to just put out that damage. So this path, this is effectively slowing us down because this is a rotation. I get it. Your BAP went this way. You thought maybe we were going this way, but you did really have the information that it looked like your Rhine and Zarya were starting to go this way. Your Zarya turns and starts to join you, but it was a pretty easy read that this was where your tanks wanted to go, even if nothing was called. So let's try and do that next time. And then having to spend this roll is pretty unfortunate. I don't actually think we had to spend this roll. I think we still could have tried to normally catch up. Yeah, maybe we did to keep up here. So that's an intentional shot at the bubble. We don't want that. Well, I do want you just going damage, damage, damage. Like, that's good. Fine. I totally am fine whether that bullet hit a bubble or not, but I don't like that bullet on the bubble. This is a case where you go, nope, I'm going to hold the shot for just a moment. Your team isn't doing enough damage to burst through that bubble, and even if you did burst through that bubble, you're not going to then be able to eliminate the Reinhardt. So, damage is already there. The bubble goes up right as you're clicking, right after you click, etc., and you're already clicking. I can forgive that, but we don't want to shoot when the bubble is there, and that bubble had been there for, more than an instant when you pulled this what I believe is second bullet into it. I don't care about the first. And that was pretty much a third that you put into it. So I don't like that. And you don't have any bullets here, so this is going to be painful. But your lamp did come out, and you don't have roll either. Yeah, this is going to bite a little, and this is what not having roll costs us. You are going to have to flash and backstep, but you're not going to get... No, they don't necessarily know. You're going to have to backstep to try and get into this lamp that just went out. Oh, boy. I hope you're slamming the X button. No, you weren't slamming the X button. So that was a nice shot, but we needed a little more awareness. We needed a little more, hey, I want to step back because if I'm able to make it 2 steps back, I'm in my lamp, and that's a big deal considering that I have to reload, I'm weak, etc. That's what we wanted to go for. It was a nice shot. I'm like, hey, this has been good aim for the shots that we've seen so far. Your crosshair placement has been good. You hit that shot onto the tracer, the headshot. That's nice. But we want to make sure that we can go, hey, we want to go, let's not burn our cooldown, because if we have roll, we win this no problem. Like, we win this no problem if we'd still had our roll. Okay.
Back in the saddle again.
I am capturing the objective. Try and stop.
Oh, come on, game. Okay, I actually think you were a little slow to take that shot. You see the Mercy. Little slow, but not terribly. I can live with it.
Hold up now.
Okay. No, you have to see the trap. Oh boy. So my issue with this is how hard you committed. So if we look at this, You're on the Mercy. Absolutely correct. Good. You're pushing the Mercy. I can deal with it. That's fine. You use the flash, which I'm going to accept. That was always a little bit of a reach, but it's very close, so I'm going to be okay with it.
Hold up,
And then you follow up, you hit the other shot, and I'm fine with that. My issue is actually, hey, that's a tracer right in front of me. That is a tracer right in front of me. It's not looking at me, and that is good. But by committing this roll, even though I get it, this Mercy is super juicy, like, hey, it's going to be an easy finish, etc. By committing this roll, you now have no cooldowns, and look at where you are. You committed your roll after you knew where the tracer was, putting yourself in this situation where, hey, there's a tracer right here. Turns out there's an Ana right here too, and the enemy team is mostly on, if I kind of divide up the point, the relative space of the teams is sort of more like this right now. That's sort of the angle, control blue teams over here, red teams over here, and you are thoroughly in the middle of what red team controls here. You are thoroughly in the middle of it. So, like, we don't particularly like that. Because even when you take out this Mercy, you're going to take out this Mercy, and that's going to be beautiful. You have no cooldowns. You don't have a cooldown back in a second or anything. So you're going to be in this situation of, oh shoot, there's a Tracer on me, and this Tracer should know that I don't have Flash, because they were clearly in the area. And, by the way, they have an Ana pocket, but even if they didn't have the Ana pocket, Tracer is just going to eat you for breakfast if you don't have any sort of cooldowns available, and Tracer saw you burn your second cooldown. That roll that, by rolling in here, you now have no way out, and if you'd still had your roll, you could have potentially rolled more towards your team when you saw this Tracer, etc., if this Tracer had fought you without your Flash. But you without Flash are always vulnerable to a Tracer. You made yourself super vulnerable by A, using your second cooldown, B, going deeper, and third, not having that cooldown to try to get out, etc., to try to get back to where your team can support you. It is going to be a long rotation this way in Tracer time for you to get from here to here where your team can support you and help you against this Tracer if this Tracer chooses to pick on you. Okay. No, you can't push back into this. You still don't have cooldowns, and you don't know what this Tracer status is. If you're like 100% absolutely positive that this Tracer doesn't have recall, so be it, but you can't do this. You want to hold this space, but you're going to hold this space by getting to here as quickly as you can, or getting to here as quickly as you can, where your team can influence the fight. Even if your team can't see the Tracer, if the Tracer comes at you, the Tracer won't come at you because your team can see you. The BAP at the end can throw heals at you if they need to. The Tracer's not going to want that fight. Out here, you're much more vulnerable. I don't like that you're pushing forward here. It's just not understanding the space that is going on between the two teams right now. Happy to hear it, Sobnerit. Yeah, I still don't know how to get that J in there, sorry. But yeah, happy to hear it, man. Okay. You don't want to be here. So I don't want you as like the lead person unless you're on a different angle than your team. So what you're looking at here is, if you were here, I want you here because your team is, here. Or if you're here, I want your team here. If your team is not taking aggressive other angles for you, you can't be like in front like this. The only time you should be in front of your team is when you're cleaning up staggers that you're very confident you're going to clean up, or when you guys have a good concave. Like if the enemy team is pushing in, and let's just say as an example that, let me take a quick look, your BAP and Ryan are playing from here, and your Zarya is playing from here, and you're playing from here, and the enemy team is right here. Well, let's push that forward a little bit. And the enemy team is right here. Yeah, I'm not going to mind too much that you're right here. Like, it's aggressive. It would certainly be aggressive. It's in front of the rest of your team, but you have a good concave on them. You're not the one that they can fully afford to focus on, etc. Okay, wrong direction on this arrow. Whereas if you look at them, they're going to go, hey, we have to pay attention to this way. We have to pay attention to this way. We have to pay attention to this way. Maybe you're the most vulnerable, but they can't really punish you because by doing so, or if they too hard try to punish you, they turn their back to the Zarya that melts them, the BAP Ryan that pushes into them, etc. So I don't want you in front of your team, which is what you are right here, unless you are very confident that you're just cleaning up a couple staggers and you can get out, and I'm not convinced that that's what this is anymore. Like, yes, you can say that's what this is, but it's about to not be that, so if you don't back up, I'm going to be concerned. So I don't want you in front like this unless you're cleaning up staggers or unless your team aggressively has off angles, etc., or you're one of the people aggressively on that off angle, etc. Okay, at least you have your cooldowns. And you back up. Okay, so I'm going over. Nope, I'm not going over it for nothing. I am going over it for something. Okay, so I don't mind you taking poke. I want you to get poke as they're coming in, but I don't like this because there's, 3-4 sets of eyes on you for only 2 sets of eyes on them. This is basically you and your Ana poking into them. I would like your team to be up here, don't get me wrong, but they are more likely to force an elimination on you than vice versa in this situation. It's wrong that your team isn't up here being a little more threatening, making them earn this space, making them earn their pushback into here, but you do have to deal with the reality of the situation and play this a little more passive. That might mean, hey, I'm going to back up to here and I'm going to take fall off range shots. That might mean, hey, I'm going to ask my team to push forward, etc. That might mean, hey, I'm going to be here and I'm going to take a shot or two as they're walking through that way, and then I'm going to peek over here to continue to take shots. But you can't, unfortunately, be here when there's, almost 6 sets of eyeballs ready to look at you, and it's really just you and Ana looking this way, or maybe just you at this point. And again, you forced your roll for that. Now you'll get it back in time, it looks like. Good. Let's be a little more conscious of that bubble. Like, again, you can shoot at a Reinhardt that is bubble shielding, but you have to be a little more careful in how you do it. So if we take a look at this. Good. Good. I don't mind that you're missing. Again, that shot is totally fine with me, but there shouldn't be another shot on the shield. Your other shot should be like over here, over here, over here, over here. As long as you're not pressing, where bubble is, you're good. So try to bring it to the edges of the shield. So you're still applying pressure. I don't want you to just waste this time reloading or something. I want you to apply pressure if there's not a shot on someone else to take, but I want you to put it on the edge of the shield where it's not helping the Zarya out. And that one was right in the middle and it gave the bubble value. As you see, the bubble sticks past the shield. Okay, so that was dangerous. I don't mind the flash. What was dangerous here? Let's go a tiny bit further. Here we are. We talked about this. Did you have to do that? Okay, whatever. I'm not going to worry about it yet. You've been good about using your ammo, so I'm not going to check that one. Totally don't mind this. The Tracer's not looking at you. This looks like a perfect flash opportunity. Maybe you were baited. Maybe she was pretending not to look at you, etc. But that's fine. But I look at this and go, oh, shoot. What is your situation from here? It's not the end of the world. This was a fine place to hold, etc. But now you have to decide, hey, am I going to try to join my team to get out, or am I going this way to get out? And if you know where the Tracer went, you're backing up to this corner and playing from here. If you don't know where the Tracer went, you might feel the need to go here to join your team, because if you go here, there might be a Tracer that hasn't spent recall yet. So let's see what you do. Yeah, so that was wrong, and this is sort of the... Oh, no. This is the worst of both worlds. Even if you get this Tracer, I'm not happy because you're going to lose your life. You started to go this way, which just tells me you didn't know where the Tracer was, which was fine. And I'm okay with that, but this was a case of, hey, you go this way, you might even fan in this direction while going this way, and then force your roll to join your team faster. Like, that's probably what I'd recommend in this situation if you didn't know where the Tracer was and then saw that the Tracer was there, because there's definitely not time to go, I'm going to start to go this way, I see the Tracer, I start taking a little damage, I back up this way, now I fight the Tracer over here. Like, you're getting yourself caught in the enemy's space again. You needed to be more decisive. Either I go this way and I commit to it, or, hey, I go this way and hope that this wasn't the direction that the Tracer went because I didn't see. Those were really your options. And you, again, just to highlight sort of what happened so that you see what I'm being grouchy about. That's fine. I've got no issue with what happened there. I've got no issue with deciding to go this way. You started going this way, you see the recall, and it's weird because seeing the recall actually means the Tracer isn't there anymore, so that's even more reason to continue this way. You're not safe anymore. Like, you're not safe anymore because you're in a kind of dangerous spot and you don't have flash. And if you were still back here, you might be safe because you don't have flash and Tracer doesn't have recall, but you've now stepped here. So you need to either hard go this way or you need to get out immediately, and you sort of do the worst of both worlds. So at half speed, you sort of do the, I'm going to stay here, I'm going to go like this. This isn't movement away or towards. And then you go, oh, I'm going to finish the Tracer that used recall. I get it. You want the Tracer elimination. You want to punish them. They don't have recall, but it's not acceptable. Like, they're going to recall to the health pack. Sure, they don't have recall, but you don't have flash. It's effectively even, and you're in much more dangerous positioning. You can't be here. This is, again, an understanding of space that your team controls versus your opponent's control. If you were 2 steps to your right, that would be fine. If you were 4 steps to your left, that would be fine. And this is too late to be rolling. You just took too long because you decided to go for the Tracer.
It ain't my time.
Unfortunate. That's fine. Anna will get you. Just press X. Literally just press X. You don't need to be passive. They just don't realize you took damage. Like, I promise they're not going, oh, shooting is the priority, etc., etc. They just haven't noticed you took damage. Press the X button or whatever you've hotkeyed it for I need healing, and they will happily turn and heal you. You don't need to just wait. Like, it's better for them to heal you so you can potentially go back to poking than it is for them to poke, and they know that. They're not going to be annoyed. I'm annoyed he wasted shift. I'm going to be annoyed. They're not going to be annoyed. There we go. You got to dodge this. Like, I know I'm being nitpicky. You're a lot better than Junkrat at this range. You're a lot better than Junkrat at this nade range because you see his grenades. I know you're using the majority of your vision to focus on aim, etc., but you still have peripheral, and you can afford to sacrifice a little bit of that aim, focus, etc. for peripheral to dodge nades, because nades are all he can use, and they're just not accurate at this range. So this nade shouldn't hit you. I know you're primarily focused on aim here, but you should be able to step to the right and avoid this nade, even if it means your aim gets 30% worse to make your avoidance 60% better. That's worth it, specifically when dealing with Junkrats, often when dealing with Pharahs, etc. Yeah. So that's unfortunate, but she shouldn't have been hit by the nade, and that's basically what happened. Is it worth flanking with these comps? We don't need to be flanking here. It's okay to hold different angles when we have a different angle. It would be worth flanking after a one fight to set up for a high noon, etc. But it's not something that we need to take time to go take different flanks into this comp as this comp.
Back in the saddle again.
But if we were like Soldier, yeah, we'd definitely go flanking into this. It's over. It's over. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's a trap. It's a trap. Okay, so this is 2 sets of eyeballs that's about to be 4 sets of eyeballs aiming this way versus 1 set of eyeballs going this way. Yes, you're better than Junkrat at this range. You are not better than 4 sets of eyeballs at this range. So you've already peaked it, so if you want to take a shot and then close, I can go with it. Or if you want to try for a quick double tap to eliminate someone, I can deal with it. But, like, I want you to close this angle and fast. They know that they just wiped your team. They know that if they try to push you, they get you. Yes, they don't have a Lucio. Yes, they don't have someone who can quickly get on top of you, except this Tracer that just rezzed. But, like, they know that they've got you. They are much more likely to, on accident, get an elimination on you than vice versa on accident. Accident isn't quite the right word. But they're more likely to force an elimination onto you than you are onto them. Their Mercy and their Ana are right there. They're going to be healed. Close it. Close it.
They ain't finished yet.
Okay. Close it again. Seriously, close the angle again. Don't get hit by that. Guarding flanks from Tracer would probably be a better use of time in some situations.
Just what the doctor ordered.
This is unfortunate. They know you're here, but you're committed to it, and you don't have time to rotate back. You're going to have to let them do work. That was your Junkrat's thing. And you pretty much need to try to pop this. Oh, it's already too late. Yuck.
It's time.
Okay. I'm a little surprised that you're staying on the Mercy here. So if we look at this, Mercy's a fine first elimination. I got no issue. Maybe you know she's missing health. No, you didn't hit her, so I don't think you know that she's missing health. There is a tracer on top of you. You hear the tracer on top of you. You see the hit markers are coming from your left. So we do need to turn and deal with that. We can't just tunnel chase the Mercy when the tracer is on us. And that's similar to what we did over here. We tunnel chased the Mercy when there was a threat on us. We can't go deeper for these threats. Go deeper for this stuff when there's something on us. We do need to make it leave. If we don't force Tracer to use blinks, if we don't look at Tracer, we will get eaten alive very quickly. Okay, I'm glad Junk got Anna for you. Okay, and I'm glad the team won the fight. Good!
I am on fire! Come here and get burned.
Why would we do that to our supports? Why would we do that to our
I am
supports?
on fire! Come here and get burned.
Do we not have any up? If we don't have any up, I'll live with it. Okay, fine. You win. I'm wrong.
I feel like a new man.
Oh, passive tanks. It hurts. It hurts. We're going to take that ground. Okay. This is a good adjustment on your part. If you're realizing that your tanks aren't going to hold forward, so you're going, hey, I'm not going to get the early poke time. I might as well get the better on-point position. I like that. The irony, of course, is that now your tanks are in the better spot and you could have been up there.
I have found the enemy. Come on.
Okay. Kind of slow, but that's okay. Oh, that's unfortunate. We're just all pressing Q? Okay.
Rest in
Is there anything you do to set up for a high noon, or do you just use it randomly when you see an opportunity to get a pick or use it for the reload? So what you do with high noon is generally when you have time to flank. So frequently that's going to be after a one fight. I do not like McCree's to flank during fights most of the time, but sometimes you have won a fight and now you get to set up because they're in spawn, etc., etc. Like if you want to fight pretty cleanly, you get to set up and you can do something cute like just wait back here, etc. And then you give up a little bit of uptime because you let them come in, you don't poke at them necessarily on the way in, etc., etc. And then as they commit, you high noon them from behind on a flank or something like that. It's high risk, high reward, etc. But when you have a high noon, that becomes more worth it, etc., because your reward goes up. You know, it's high risk, high reward, but it's high risk, higher reward when you have the high noon like that. You can sort of do the same thing in a lost fight. It's just harder where, hey, if you lost a fight, but you were one of the people to go down early or you never went down, you can potentially do a bit more of a, hey, we lost, and you can do what we tried to do over here, which was, hey, I'm going to try to push here. I'm going to try to push here when my team is baiting here, and again, I'm going to late push, etc. But we got given away. So this was actually the right way to execute a high noon, but they caught it. They were aware of it. There was a Junkrat that they had to push into, etc. It's easier to execute high noons after a one fight than it is on a lost fight. And if you lost a fight, you sort of need to either be the first person to respawn, so you've got a little time to set up in the different direction, or you need to have not gone down and gone out cleanly, so you have that time. No problem. Okay. Didn't need that roll. Didn't need that roll at all. We still have 3 shots left. We still have 3 shots left and we're in a fine spot. That team doesn't have a Lucio. Nothing is going to push through us and get us immediately. There's absolutely no reason to not just stay where we are and keep shooting at the Zarya, keep shooting at the Reinhardt, etc. Like, we can stay here. We can even push up a little more if we want to. We just need to be in a place that their Rein can't swing into us, etc. Like, no need to back up here. No need to waste our roll. If you wanted to waste your roll to reload there, no problem. But you didn't need to reload yet. I think that bubble stalled you. Again, just shoot at the edge of the shield. You see the tracer, you're immediately going to flick. Don't waste flash yet, just flick. Yeah, so she's getting used to you. You've done that a couple times, and they will get used to it, where when the tracer doesn't know you're there and you flash her, great. But she's looking for flash. She's ready for flash. Tracers are hard to deal with because when you look at a tracer, that's when it wants to flash. As you get your crosshair closer to lining up on a tracer, they know. They're actually watching your weapon to see how it lines up, etc. And as you get to like here-ish, or if they're better here-ish, etc., they're going to... Well, that's just too much. They're not that good, especially at this level. Let me... As they get to like here and aiming at them, they can't afford to blink after they take damage against a McCree. You do too much damage per shot, so they're going to blink. So you want to bring your crosshair to about here. You know, you want to try to bring your crosshair to them to shoot at them, and they're going to blink past you over here, right? So then we've brought our crosshair, the tracer blinks, that's great. And then at that point, or maybe they blink behind you, I don't really care, but they're going to blink somewhere. And then you're going to try to bring your crosshair to them again, usually. And that's going to force another blink, etc. And you do this before, you shouldn't have run out of health yet if you understand how the battle goes. And then maybe the third time you go, okay, this time I'm actually going to, as I get my crosshair close to you, I'm going to flash because I think you're low on blinks, or I think you are going to have to spend recall or something like that. That's what you're more looking to do. You follow? Like, they are trying to reactively blink to, when they're aware that they're dueling you, they are reactively blinking to you're bringing your crosshair close to them. And it's much easier to get a flash on them when they've used more blinks, because once they've used two blinks, they're going to be more conservative with the third blink. Once they've used three blinks, they can't blink. They can only recall, etc., etc. So the more you get out of them, the easier it's going to be to land their flash, and you're balancing this against, well, how much health do I have left? Because they're going to be chipping you down as you get through this fight like this. And okay, you got to here, well, you're going to have to use your flash the next time you get them, etc. I hope that makes sense. When they're not aware of you, of course, just flash them, own them, etc. But you've tried to flash this tracer first time you see her, like 2 or 3 times in a row now. So she's definitely going to be ready, if she's aware you're here, to blink past you or blink to the left, etc., to dodge it when you start to get close. You're not going to get her with a flash when she's aware. Well, I'm not actually sure she did correctly dodge that.
Now, hold on.
Okay, she used the wall. Fine.
Let's start over at the beginning.
Again, I don't really want you as the tip of the spear here. Like, you're sort of in front of your whole team. I don't like it.
I have your back.
Reasonable. Okay. You're more likely to get crushed here than you are to get an elimination. And again, hopefully you would have been healed here, but because you peaked here and did this work into like a 1v3, etc., but you took damage in return, you were over here getting a health pack while your team actually was more threatening. And you could have done more work while your team was more threatening, both because people are distracted looking at your team not looking at you, and because when you hit someone to hit a headshot on them, they might already be chipped down from your team having done damage to them, so it might be an elimination instead of damage, etc. So again, by peeking at the wrong time, by being ahead of your team, by peeking early, you then took yourself out of the fight at the right time. Or you peek early and you have to roll to get out. Well, you've removed your ability to have a cooldown that lets you do more damage at the right time. So this timing, this not being ahead of your team when it's going to potentially cost you things because you're doing 1v3s, you're doing 2v5s, etc., really does add up. This is opportunity cost we're looking at here.
Oh, excuse me.
You're dead.
Overtime.
You're in trouble. Okay.
Much better.
I forget that gold tracers don't know what they're doing sometimes. I'm sorry, guys.
It's high noon.
I don't love this.
Draw.
It worked. So that's a fine combo. The reason I was saying, like, the reason I was saying I don't love this is because I could tell the Tracer was doing damage to her, but apparently it was further away than I thought. Him. McCree, him. Yeah, whatever. Pronouns are hard.
Ready for battle.
Okay. So far, this has been a, hey, engagement timing type stuff. It's been some, hey, we're letting our cooldowns get forced at bad times. Like, I don't love our roll usage. We have some stuff there, but mostly this is a, we're engaging into times when it is more threatening to us than it is to the enemy.
All better.
Take another look at that. Okay. I can live with that.
The objective is now.
It ain't my time.
It was. I'd have preferred to just spend the last shot in the clip rather than do the reload, roll in, flash fan that we saw, but it wasn't necessary. We had that Reinhardt even if we didn't do that. That Reinhardt was just so out of position, so separated from their team that was back here, etc., and we had a bunch of allies here to deal with them, but, you know. I don't like this. I don't really like this. Okay, they're not looking at you. We'll deal.
Rest in peace.
Oh, but this is just going to be the new play pattern now for this player? We're now just in full fan... Okay. Please don't do this. Like... Your team is still alive. You're just like in full aggro mode here. Like full aggro mode, no concern for your own life. So I lived with it this time because like, hey, it was on your side of the map, your team was here, etc. Junkrat spam happened to get you, whatever, we can live with it. You could have more safely taken them down from here. But this is like, hey, I am going in. There's a Zarya to here, and I am going in more with my last cooldown to try to force this on this melee hero, etc. when my team isn't here, any of that jazz. Like, this is again, we need to be conscious of our cooldowns. McCree does not have very good mobility. He needs to be able to defend himself with his flash. He needs to be able to be very close to cover that he can use to roll through for, etc. Or he needs to be close to cover so that when he rolls, he can continue fighting with his weapon, etc. Like he can't do this. No.
Rest.
This is the wrong way to angle. I get why you're doing it, but you needed to be angling this way. It's going to get you to cover that you can use sooner, and it's not going to put you closer to where the enemy team was. Like, you do need to be aware of the enemy team space versus your space. You're consistently not angling back towards your team space. You're consistently going into enemy space that you can't reasonably get out of. Yes, Blah, exactly.
Back in the saddle again.
Get behind. Observe the barrier. Hold together.
Yeah, Joshua's found it exactly. But then it was a problem again, so we went into it. I actually don't mind breaking this bubble like you're trying to do at all. Like, this is one of those situations where you can reasonably expect that your team does want to break this bubble. Your team is right here. They should shoot at the Zarya rather than just going, oh, well, we're just going to quietly go to our graves. But I would just fan here. Like, rather than try to chip this down, you're pretty darn close to this Zarya. The bubble makes her hitbox even bigger. Just fan. You've still got 4 bullets left. Fan to spend those bullets. That will let you get out damage faster. Like, yes, each bullet is more damage if you shoot it, but fan lets you get out damage faster, and there aren't headshots you can be hitting. This is a bubble. So use the fan, because you're going to do more total damage faster over time. You're going to do more damage over time just by spamming fans. If you can hit all of the fans, which you can against this bubble, then you would lining up individual shots that can't be headshots. And these can't be headshots because there's a bubble here. So do the fan. Yes, it's going to make you reload sooner, but you're going to do more total damage, etc. And then, we flashed a bubble. But hey, if we'd fanned, we could have broken that bubble, flashed, who knows. You can try to roll, maybe. Better roll was actually to over here rather than straight. A roll to over here lets you take shots at the Zarya, have this nice surround on the Zarya, do good damage, etc. This is better roll towards your team space that they control, but you're not in the space that your team controls anyways. This is still neutral contested space, and this was better because while it's also neutral, you at least have cover against threats coming from over here, etc. by having this wall here. This is good aim for a gold McCree. If this player understands space, they're going to shoot up.
Head for the hills.
Little late on that flash. Not because he's dead, but because, you were just slow on it. You actually wouldn't have caught him if he hadn't died with that flash. Okay.
My ultimate's ready.
Press X. Press X. Or not. Why are we lamping? What are we doing?
Area in place. What is that? It's high noon.
This is not a bad combo conceptually to go, hey, maybe you guys called that we're going for a Flux High Noon combo. Maybe that happened, in which case I can forgive this. You felt the pressure of, oh, I have to High Noon because we're fluxing, and that was the called combo. But the reason that you do Flux High Noon combos is you intentionally lift not the Reinhardt. You lift the people behind the Reinhardt. So they're already not pushing because they've been lifted up into the air, right? So this is sort of stacking things that are going to make them not push. They don't want to push into the Flux. They don't want to push into the High Noon. You get more value by staggering those than comboing those. Now, again, if you'd lifted 3-4 people in the back with Flux and not the Reinhardt, absolutely, you could do it. And if you had an angle where, hey, everyone was tucked neatly behind Reinhardt and your first bullet would break the shield and the rest would get him, fine. But you knew you didn't have that even when you pulled the High Noon button here. So you just shouldn't have pressed the button. You should have been like, well, Flux, and if Flux gets us the win, great. And if it doesn't get us the win, we'll let them continue to push in a little more, and then we'll High Noon and try to get stuff there. And maybe they'll rush back, run back, etc. But they probably can't because they probably used their cooldowns to protect themselves from the Flux. So the High Noon will take them off, fish in a barrel.
It's high noon. Draw.
Yeah. Stacking those didn't do anything. Good old combo in general, but stacking those here didn't do anything, and you need to be aware of that. That it was never going to do anything. Good. Good. Okay. You need to not get hit by this node.
Nanoboost administered.
I promise you can press X a little more often. You should not be relying on the shift. I also hope you hear the tracer to your left.
Easy.
What? Good shot. Totally reasonable to roll away from the pulse bomb. But why are we flashing? There's no belief that by the time we've finished a roll, Tracer will be in the same spot. Not that that was the spot originally.
Easy.
My shot find their mark.
Oh boy.
Don't move.
Walk it off.
Whatever. You can't stay here. You can't stay here. You don't have cooldowns. You have no cooldowns. That health pack is taken. You are deep in enemy space. Why? So I'm just going to show you the third person map here. You're here. This Sigma is not threatening regardless because Sigma does not have this range. This Reinhardt is not threatening regardless because Reinhardt doesn't have this range. So it's you versus the world, whether you realize it or not. We leave. We leave. We don't stay here. We immediately leave. Yeah, of course. The Tracer knew that you didn't have cooldowns. Like, you were always going to get pushed. And the Tracer has a pocket, so she can be like, hey, if you don't have Flash, I can fight you even without recall because Anna is staring right at me.
Down for the count. Helden sterben nicht.
My ultimate is charging.
Let's start over at the beginning.
Exactly. Bravely, oh so bravely run away.
Healing in us.
I'll live with the roll. It's a late roll, but I'll live with it because of the point situation. That's tough. That's a tough target priority call. Yeah, I guess you've got to take the shot at the Reinhardt, who the Reaper is looking at, to try to get that elimination before you pivot back to the Tracer. It's a tough call. This is not how we use flashes. We've talked about how we use flashes into Tracers. Like, we have to make the Tracer move at least once before we flash it if the Tracer's aware of us. If the Tracer isn't aware of us, we can try to flash it, catch it off guard, etc. But we can't just immediately flash when we see Tracers. They know how to dodge that. They know to dodge that. They know as you start to aim at them in a duel, this isn't really a duel, but we'll kind of call it a microcosm of a duel within this team fight, that they have to dodge because you're either going to hit them with damage that they have to blink before you actually line up the shot, but as you're getting close to, or they have to dodge the flash.
Pardon me.
Team kill.
Exactly.
My ultimate is charging.
Back in the saddle again.
So I'm good with an early roll out of spawn for distance. I don't like this second roll that you've now done twice now. I was forgiving of it on the previous one because now it's sort of becoming a more valuable cooldown. If you use it for a reload, I can potentially deal with it, but I don't just like to use a second one for movement here because even though it's a pretty fast cooldown at 6 seconds, it is a cooldown that, hey, you kind of want as you get back into this fight. Okay, we tried.
Well, now.
This is junk time. Okay. So mechanically you're good. Mechanically you are going to be fine for gold. You could even take these mechanics into probably low diamond and be fine. But you need to increase your judgment. Specifically, you need to increase your space awareness, your awareness of where your team is, and your awareness of where the opposing team is. And the way that we're going to do this, what we're first going to think about, the low-hanging easy fruit, is, hey, if my team isn't here because my team is in spawn, my team is back in point, etc., I want to count the number of eyeballs. If I am peeking into something, if I are, what did I miss there? Okay, so anyways, what we're looking at here, the easiest thing to fix is going to be, hey, if you're poking at enemies and you realize, wait, there's more of them than there is of my team that are effective at engaging this team, like more of, if I can see more enemies and therefore more enemies can see me than my team can see, then can see my enemy, we don't want these mismatched situations. If we're going, hey, I'm coming back from spawn and it's just me and Anna, or it's just me and Bap, or it's just me and Ryan, etc., that's not a good time for me to poke into 4 enemies, 5 enemies, 6 enemies, etc. I want to poke into enemies when most of my team can see them. So that's what I want to do. It's the, hey, I want to poke when most of my team can work on enemies, etc. If it's just a one-on-one, okay, it's just a one-on-one. If it's a 2v1 in your favor, great, it's a 2v1 in your favor. But you don't want to be poking into these 1v many, 3v many situations, because what you end up with is either you get forced out and then you have to go get healed, you have to go find a health pack, or you use your cooldowns, etc., and then you don't have those cooldowns, or you're missing getting a health pack when the actual fight happens, or you get eliminated when the other team doesn't. Because remember, the other team is more likely to hurt you, to do more damage to you than them, and the other team is more likely to eliminate you than you are them. The exception to this becomes, hey, I'm peeking from an angle that they don't know I have, etc. But you're McCree, you can't get out fast if you do that. So even when you're peeking from these angles, you want it to be when your other team is also threatening them, etc. So that, hey, they have to pick their compromise. They can't really chase you, or if they do chase you, they're exposing their backs, etc. to your team, or reducing numbers, and your team can run over them, etc. So the 2 things I really want you to understand are, what is the numbers in this team fight? I don't want to take fights that are poor numbers. I don't want to take fights at times when they're poor numbers when I don't have to. If you're trying to hold a point and it's, a 6v3, of course, you're going to have to take your 6v3, or you're going to kite a little and push back in, etc. But like, I get that. What I'm talking is, in these neutral fights, or in these fights when you're trying to push in attack, I really want you to be like, hey, I understand where my teammates are. I understand if my teammates are relevant to this fight or not. McCree needs his teammates. He needs to at least use them as distractions, etc. That's going to be important for any DPS hero, but that's what we're looking at. Understand where your teammates are. Understand if they're contributing. If they can't contribute, you don't want to be poking into a giant mass of enemies, etc. The second thing is going to be understanding the battle lines, the space, etc. So right now, if we look at how this works right now, it's pretty obvious. This is red space. This is blue space. This is sort of neutral space, etc. You need to be understanding when you're fighting in enemies, when you're pushing in, when you're like the first person in, etc. Wait, I am clearly in red space. I may be creating my own little blue blob in red space, but this is clearly in red space. Like, this is a problem. I'm here, etc. This is clearly their space. My team has not contested this space. My team has not made this neutral space, has not made this blue space. This is dangerous. I should not be in front of my team here. It's okay if we go, hey, here's our red space, here's our blue space. And by the way, I'm also making this blue space because I'm over here. That's okay. If you've got your team here, you're here, etc., that could be okay. I don't love it because they can get here too fast, but you've got to understand where the enemies are and where you are, because you go in hard sometimes. You had good examples of that where you went in hard here and then you continued into enemy space. You didn't know where the space your team controlled was to try and retreat to, to try and back out to as you tried to fight your way out. And we saw the same thing back on Garden, was it? Is that what the map is called? I don't remember. We saw the same thing back on the last map where, hey, you sort of knew where your team was, you sort of didn't know where the tracer was, and you didn't pick the right retreat path because you're going, hey, let me do this, and you're sort of pushing into red, bad guys, etc. You need to know where your team is so you know where you can retreat to if you're getting pressured, etc. And you need to know, I can't roll into this because I'm going into this red space, I'm going into the enemy team, I'm pushing to get this mercy elimination, and I'm using all of my cooldowns, and I won't have any way out when I'm deep in enemy territory. If I use all of my cooldowns in my own backline, I'm okay. I'm not in any real danger. I'll be perfectly fine. But if I use all of my enemy cooldowns in the enemy space and my team hasn't pushed up to take that enemy space with me, I'm absolutely boned. So that's not something I want to do. I hope those two things make sense. They're definitely intertwined. They're not like firmly 100% the same thing, but they're definitely intertwined topics. If they don't make sense, you can definitely message me. You can either put it up in YouTube chat or you can Discord message me and we can try and go over it in a little more detail. But it really is going to be a, hey, the easiest stuff, the easiest thing to understand is between fights, let me check on how many teammates I have, how are we doing, etc. Okay, now I want to poke. My team is threatening this area that I poke, etc. And then once you feel like you've got mastery of that, you're automatically doing the right thing. Maybe it took 15 games, maybe it took 10 games, maybe it took 2 weeks to sort of get that where you're checking on your team before you're going, hey, let me go do this poke, etc., etc. Then you're going to get to the stage of, okay, now I want to work on when I'm in fights, when it's hot, when things are going on, how am I going to, where do I retreat to if I get pressured? Where's my team? Oh, I'm taking damage. Oh, I'm doing something. Which direction can I retreat in to be safer because of my team's help in a chaotic, evolving battlefield? Okay, so those are going to be the things. If people have questions, throw them up in chat now. If you guys are enjoying the content, please do like and subscribe, as that really does help out quite a bit. Or if you are looking to get coaching, you can join my Discord in the description below. And in there, see rates, see promos, see what sort of activities we have going on, all sorts of cool stuff like that. Okay, so question, is it better to hide for high noon or shoot during a fight and get value but sacrifice potentially huge high noon value? It's better to do what works. So it's better to do what works in terms of if you get a high noon off that is one elimination during a battle and it wasn't an elimination that you automatically 100% had otherwise, that's fine. You do not need to go, oh, I'm getting huge high noons, etc. High noon is much better than it used to be, but it's still not some amazing ult. So get value out of it, get an elimination out of it, no problem whatsoever. Take what's there. Don't go, oh, I'm holding this for next fight to get a big setup, etc. Unless you're holding it to preserve ult economy because you've already poured ult into the fight, etc. We talked about bravely running away. PSA, if you see an if and you are one, get an if. Don't just look at it. IF. I don't know what IF means there. Immortality field. Yes. Immortality field. Got it. Sort of true. Like in that fight where the BAP got pulse bombed, I think rolling away, even though the BAP was probably going to pop Immortality field on himself, was the right move because, McCree doesn't want to get caught by that pulse bomb. Like, yes, he's immortal if he's in the lamp, but he would rather be out of the lamp and preserve his health. So there you go. Shoot the tire. Yeah, that's what we did. Bravely run away. Yay from your team is the other option and hope. No, as McCree, you really need to contribute to taking down that tire. If you bravely run away from tires as McCree when the team is there, I'm going to be annoyed at you. And yeah, perfect. Did we just hit 750? Love to see it. Okay, that's what I've got. And I'm going to be away for a few hours, but I'll put some more stuff up this evening. Thanks, guys. Temporal out.